do a bit of my presentation first instead of just straight up answering questions. I think it's good to have a little background of kind of where I'm coming from, and I think give you some good information and probably answer some questions. And then after I go through my thing, which should be 15 minutes, maybe 20, we'll go through any questions that you guys have, and I'll give you my contact information. If you don't, if either A, you don't want to ask something in front of a group, or something dawns on you in the next day or two and you feel like, asking me there. So if you don't mind, let's do this just for organization purposes. If you can mute, you're welcome to be on camera, not, it's up to you. But just this way, if something goes on and, doorbell rings, someone yells, dog barks, that we're able to not all be disturbed. So what I've done here is kind of called it like a 9 inning, 9 tips that I'm going to give you. Again, I'm recording this, so I'll, happily send this out after, but if you want to take notes, feel free. And then frankly, if as I'm going through this 15-minute piece of something, you just can't resist asking a question during the time, feel free. Just like unmute and go, hold on, that's something big. I don't know what you're talking about. I heard something else. But if you can wait till the end, I'll make sure that I stay on and cover everything. So here's the first inning, as I'll call it, which is know what you're up against. I think there's a misconception that if you just want to play college baseball, there's an opportunity for you. And I think people don't realize how absolutely competitive it is. So here's the numbers. This is the number of studies by the NCAA. So you could look right at the top. There's baseball. There's roughly 482,000 high school baseball players, 36,000 college players. So 7.5% only move on to play in college, 2.2% to Division II, 2.3 Division 2.2% Division I, 2.3% Division II, 2.9 Division III. And I look at this even further, and I divide those numbers in half, because half are usually position players and half are pitchers. So it's great to have a Division I goal. Many of the kids that will watch or listen to this, your kids can get there. But in essence, you have a 1.1% chance to play Division I baseball as a pitcher, 1.1% chance to play as a pitcher or position player, whichever one I said first. And then if you're both, we'll talk about that in a second. So just a couple of things to keep that in mind here. So obviously, when these kids commit, the big thing to do in the modern world is go on Instagram and post, I'm thrilled to commit and honored, to make my commitment. And I'm just having you realize that every time you see a kid post something, there's 1,000 kids that want to post, recruiting stinks, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not getting any attention, I'm worried I'm not going to play in college. But you don't see that because, right, the world posts when they have good news. So it looks like the whole world is committing and everyone's getting what they want, but a lot of kids are struggling when it comes to the recruiting process. Number two is it's pretty much most colleges recruit a typical recruiting class. So a lot of times, a father will say to me like, well, I don't know if my son could play at UConn, but, playing at Lafayette College, they should definitely want him. Well, Lafayette's going to bring in every recruiting class, one catcher, 2 infielders, 2 outfielders, 1 utility guy, probably a 2-way guy that they don't know how they're going to use yet, and 6 pitchers. Used to be that would only be from high school. A school like Lafayette's mostly still going to recruit from high school, but as we know, a lot of the colleges are filling their needs with kids from the portal. Sometimes they have a bigger need because maybe kids from the program leave, and instead of recruiting what I have on the screen, maybe they need an additional outfielder or an additional pitcher or 2 because guys left. But the bottom line is, if you're an infielder and you want to play at Lafayette, there's several thousand kids that want to do the same thing. So it's really, really competitive. And then I always say this, while I think D1 is the great goal to have, I think if your mindset is D1 or I'm not playing college baseball, it's very likely you're going to bust and it's just not going to work out. If you say, I want to play college baseball for sure at a good school, it's a good fit academically, socially, baseball wise, I'd love it to be Division I, but if it's not Division II, III, whatever, I'm still happy with that. Generally, those kids have a good outcome. So that's inning 1. Number 2, without, again, now we coming up on baseball season here, and kids are going to be busy, and then maybe they have a little time between high school season and summer season. But, and I'm especially saying this really to everyone, but sometimes when I do these, I get younger kids on these calls, parents of eighth graders, ninth graders, 10th graders. The bottom line is you got to get kids on campuses. And I'm not talking about doing admissions tours. I'm not talking about meeting with coaches. I'm talking about go look at Fairfield U and Quinnipiac and Wesleyan and New Haven and Southern and Marist and Manhattan. And I like, even if you said for Easter, well, we're going to drive up to Boston, you could hit 5 colleges on the way up and 5 on the way back. It could be driving through campus, never leave the car. It could be parking and walking around 10 minutes. But the bottom line is when your kids get on campus, they start to go, oh, I like this. I don't like that. UConn's too big. I don't like this area. I don't like city. They start to learn what they want. And my whole take on this is if the kids are talented enough, they should be able to find a school that's a good baseball fit, which we'll talk about, a good academic fit, but then has the other parameters of what they want out of school, so that maybe if the baseball doesn't work out, they still love the school that they're at. They're still making lifelong friends, as opposed to saying, well, I really didn't want to go to Western Connecticut, but I like the coach and the program. And then all of a sudden, a year or two into it, they're not happy and they want to leave because the baseball piece didn't work out. So bottom line is, get these kids on campus, because all they know now is they love to play at Vanderbilt and LSU and Stanford and Duke, but they need to get out and see what the options are just for schools in general. And most young kids haven't seen it, or many campuses, and if they have, they usually were there for a tournament. They drove right to the field and they left. They didn't really ever get a chance to look around. All right. The third thing then is they got to figure out how good they are. Are they Power 5 Division 1? Are they lower level Division 1? Are they Division 2, Division 3, or like many high school kids, Division 4, which means they're not good enough to play at any level of college. And I put here in green, it's not just what you parents think, and that's not meant to be a jerk. It's 2 reasons most parents are not the best judges of athletic talent. Number one is it's your kids. We love them, and we always view them in a way that, hey, even though you struck out 4 times today, you're still the best hitter on the team. Well, they might be, but that's just what parents do. I've got kids. I know what it's like. But secondly, you are not, Mike Gambino, the coach at Penn State, that's recruiting in California, Texas, Florida, all over the country. So their view of what, the talent pool is might be different than your view, where you're watching your son play 20 high school games and then a travel season. So you're trying to get more feedback as possible. So what I always say is the more people you can ask and the more feedback you get of their talent level, you'll save yourself a whole lot of aggravation in the recruiting process. So talk to the high school coach and try to get a take on what they think the right level is for your son. Talk to your travel coach. If they take one-on-one lessons, talk to that person. If they know somebody that's playing in college, right, and that person knows their talent level, say, hey, you're now playing at Fordham. If I was on the Fordham team, would I be good enough? Would I be maybe too good where I actually should shoot higher? So asking anyone that knows your son's talent level, but they're now playing in college, is absolutely someone to ask. And I always make this point, I coached basically 30 years. And if I had a kid from Huntington High School on my roster, let's say at Sacred Heart where I coached last, and I heard about a kid from Huntington High School, I would go immediately to the kid on the team and say, tell me about Frank. This kid, Frank, I just heard he's a junior at your old high school. What do you think? And if the kid said, yeah, this kid's a great kid and he's a really good player, we were interested. If he said, nah, the kid's not good or he's a jerk, that's it, done. Just by that kid's single-handed, take on it, because kids know, what the talent level is of other kids. So camps. Camps have 2 purposes. But the big thing I'm talking about right here is going to a camp. Many camps have 2 components which could be helpful for you to figure out how good your child is. Number one, a lot of them will grade them out. So you go to a camp, whether it's a 1-day, 2-day, 3-day camp, and someone is in charge of giving you an evaluation. and they will be able to say, it's a college coach that's going to say, you're probably Division II. Here's why. You do this well, but you run a 7-6. You do this well, but this is missing, right? They're going to give you direct feedback, which I think is really important. The second thing is, these kids are smart too. When they start to go to these bigger camps, they start to actually see what the competition is. So if all of a sudden they want to play at Boston College, and they go to a Boston College camp and there's 75 kids, very quickly they can look around at this group of 75 kids and go, man, there were 11 catchers there. I was catcher number 10. There were 9 dudes way better than me, bigger, stronger, better pop time. So kids get feedback with this. So I always encourage kids not to stress out about the recruiting process, but to earlier you can figure out what you have to work on, the better off you are, because you have time to change it. 2 other things in this thing. That's what I do now. After coaching 30 years, I work with kids, whether it's video or in person. I work them out and say, this is the level that's right for you. Now, most of the time I'm right. Sometimes I could be wrong based on something was different in a game than I saw in a bullpen, or maybe the kid's truly a gamer, or maybe he gets bigger or stronger or faster. Typically, 98% of the time, someone like me who coached and recruited forever can give somebody a pretty good idea of where their talent level is. And then lastly is, my God, watch some colleges play, not on TV, in person. Go watch a Fairfield U game, play Marist. Go watch Southern Connecticut play Felician. Go watch Wesleyan play Trinity, just to get an idea of the speed, the size, the skill level. Because what can happen, it could happen in a good way or a bad way. Many kids go to a Division III game and go, holy mackerel, like there were 3 dudes pumping 92. Like, wow, I didn't realize that Division III was that good. Yeah, many schools are. And conversely, sometimes a kid will go watch Central Connecticut or Sacred Heart or whatever and go, wow, I actually do think I could play Division I. I didn't think so because of XYZ, but I watched a practice or a game and I go, hey, now I actually think I could fit in there. So that can be really valuable, especially for the kids with their own eyes, to get an idea of where they stack up. And again, I know there might be some questions on this, but I want to keep it rolling to get through my part here. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to use academics, GPA, board scores if they've taken it, what they might want to study. You're trying to take the parameters I talked about before. If they want to go 3 hours from home, they want a school of 5,000 to 10,000 students that's just outside a city that has lower level Division I or Division II baseball. And they start making a list of schools, put it on a spreadsheet, rank the spreadsheet. Here's my top 5, my middle 5, my bottom 5. Update the list as things go on and as it changes. So here's a good example. Here's one of the kids I'm working with. Okay. And here's our Google shared sheet that we use. And basically all the schools that are in play are on the left. All my communication with the coaches, have I made contact? Has the kid made contact? And what's going on his end? And this gets updated literally daily, so that we're always on the same page. And anytime I get a call or boom, I go into the spreadsheet. I don't have to call the kid. I don't have to text them. But the kids, your kids should be having some structure like this too. I don't care if they handwrite it, Excel, Google Sheet, whatever other software they want to use. But without some structure to this recruiting process, it's a struggle unless you're incredibly good. And I'm assuming while you guys are here because your kids are motivated and good, I'm guessing they don't throw 93. They're not, 6'4", 215 and run a 6'8", right? If that's the case, they're probably offered already, or they're going to be offered, or they're ready signed, right? So Mr. Davis, we know Austin Howard, right? Austin Howard got signed early. Why? He's pretty freaking good, right? He's big, strong, and he's good. He got signed early, right? Whereas I know a few of you on this call, your kids are really good, but it's not like 50 schools are calling them every night. So the bottom line is you have to be organized in this process, and having a list is great. So now here's we'll get to inning 5 here. I think this is where you definitely will have some notes. What most people don't understand, and this could be the single biggest thing you may have gotten out of this right now, is you don't realize how hard recruiting is for a college coach. Most people think, they just coaches, these high and mighty coaches, they'll just go, I want this kid and I want that kid and this kid. And it's just like pretty easy. It's absolutely overwhelming to recruit for the sheer number of kids and teams and tournaments and camps and messages, and it's just chaotic. So your job is to say, here's my top list of 5 schools, and then bridge the gap from where you are to these 5 schools or 10 schools, however many you have. So there's really only 3 things that you can do, or a combination of, that we'll go over now. Of course, the goal is to get coaches to come watch the games. It's difficult in high school. Why? Because the college coaches are in season. Who do college coaches go see for high school? They go look at power arms. So if some dude in season is leaving a practice or during a long week of having games and traveling, if he's driving 3 hours to see somebody, it's probably a legit arm. Now, while that's happening, they're still looking at other kids at the game, but they're generally not, especially in March, April, they're not going to look at some shortstop. That's generally the case. But it's hard in high school because they're playing also. The colleges are playing. If your team is good enough to make the playoffs and play longer into the year, many college teams are done at that point, and they will go out and watch the high school playoff games. So you'll definitely get some coverage there. And then, of course, there's travel games. Ideally, in a perfect world, the colleges on your list would go to the travel and watch their tournaments and their games and all that stuff. Again, it's difficult because while you're playing on Field 5 at 10 o'clock at Diamond Nation and you want to be seen by Bucknell, I don't know, the Bucknell coach might be there. He also might be in Maine. He might be on Field 7. He might be on vacation. You just don't exactly know. But anytime you're communicating with schools on your list, you have to send them your high school schedule and your travel schedule constantly. Okay. Number 2, get specific on camps. If you have a kid that wants to play at Bucknell, camp-wise, there's nothing better you can do than go to the Bucknell prospect camp. So we'll talk a little bit more about camps as I go through this and then and your questions. But when you can narrow it down to their specific camp, the school on your list prospect camp, and most of them run that, that's going to, for a variety of reasons, which I'll maybe wait till the end to talk about because I'm pretty passionate on this topic. That's going to help you move the needle forward by going to specific camps of schools on your list. Number 3, you got to have some video, and it's got to be done in the right way. I'm not talking about your son's talent level. 9 out of the 10 of the videos that I see stink. They don't move the needle in terms of recruiting because they're only game footage. They look like they're shot from a mile away. It's just very hard for any college coach to make any assessment. So I have a very specific way I like the video to be, and it should be the following. 2 minutes. The first minute is BP, skills, ground balls, fly balls, bullpen. It's close-up footage of a practice setting. So the coach can see swing after swing after swing, pitch after pitch, ground ball, up close, go, wow, this kid moves well. I like the swing. Look at the size of this kid, physicality. The next minute should be game footage. So now that they've got an idea of what you look like, it's game at-bats, it's game plays in the field, it's an inning of pitching, it's receiving, blocking, throwing in a game. If the BP, the pen, that stuff can have some metrics, you have a radar gun, you have a Rapsoda, you have a TrackMan, you have hit tracks, awesome. That's even better. So you ideally want a 2-minute video, and that's what you would use to send to college coaches or post on Twitter or X or whatever you call it now. And that should be pinned to the kid's Twitter account. So anytime a coach comes to it, pinned is a 2-minute highlight video that I just talked about. Okay. Last thing then is a reference. That's what college coaches do when they go to Field 5 to look at somebody at Diamond Nation. They're not going there because they just like the color of the team. They go, I heard about a kid from somebody, high school coach, travel coach, someone like me, scout, alum, neighbor. Somebody says, hey, there's a dude over there you got to go look at. You need to have people in your side that are doing that for you, that are opening the doors to be able to do that. So I always say this, because this happens many times. I talk to a lot of kids. What's your plan to get recruited? Well, I'm going to email coaches and fill out questionnaires. Good. You should have a nice club ball season and a career in college. You are not going to get recruited doing that. It just doesn't work. No college coach comes in and just goes, you know what? Let me check the email today and the questionnaires. I need that new outfielder. I bet you it's in the email pile today. That's not how people recruit. I'm assuming that's not how most people hire for a job. Okay. And then what you're trying to do when you bridge this gap and send out the videos and go to camps and have someone call for you, you're trying to get feedback. What did the coach think? What did Sienna think? What did Binghamton think? What's the thing? So they either are going to recruit you, right? Or they're not going to recruit you. And if they're not going to recruit you, because you have two options. If Binghamton says you're too slow, you're not strong enough, you don't have a good enough changeup, you're not good enough, you got two choices: get better, right? Start sleeping more, eating better, lifting more, running more, getting better at your skill, get velocity, exit velocity, throwing velocity, command, get better. The other option is adjust your list of schools. If your list had Northeastern, BC, UMaine, UMass Lowell, UMass, Bryant, URI, none of them are interested. Either get better or start looking at Stonehill and Salve Regina and Endicott and Babson. Those are your two options. Okay. All right. If the schools are interested in you, generally what they do is they're going to ask for a transcript. So when someone sees you and likes you, you know they're serious when the coach says, "Can I get your transcript?" They do what's called a pre-read, and a pre-read sheet just has a bunch of personal information about that student. That transcript in that pre-read goes to admissions for admissions to make a read on it. And a coach, depending on what school and a variety of things, which we could talk about, has some pull to help with your ability to get into that school. For anyone that on this call is looking at an Ivy League school, is looking at a NESCAC school, the New England Small Collegiate Athletic Conference, Tufts, Bowdoin, Bates, Colby, Williams, Amherst, Hamilton, etc., you need to write this down, that you need to Google the academic index. So the academic index is a formula that is used to recruit at the high level academic institutions. Even when I do this speech and I do it in front of 300 people at a high school, I don't go into that academic index. I just mention it because it pertains to only two people in the audience. And I just say, Google it and get information. If your son or daughter, when I'm at a high school with all the different sports, I say, if they're looking to go to Dartmouth, you better Google the academic index and know what that means, because it factors in at that level. But back to kids, someone looking at URI, for example. Number one, can they get in? Number two, is there academic money? Is there baseball money, which we'll get into in a minute? And if a kid is really good at a big power school, there might be NIL money, name, image, and likeness, which can happen more in football, basketball, but certainly can happen in baseball. So we'll get to that in a minute. This I left in here, even though it pertains to women. I thought, what the heck, leave it in case anyone's got a daughter, before I get to the baseball in the men. This is the NCAA salary cap on scholarships. So, for example, basketball, Division I basketball has 15 scholarships. That means the entire team. So they might have a roster of 17 girls on a basketball team, 15 are getting a scholarship, 2 are recruited walk-ons. But you go to other sports like softball. Softball has 12 scholarships. They probably have 25 girls in the team. So either some girls are getting nothing or everyone's getting a little bit of a piece, whatever the case is. Here is the number for the men. So most of you probably have come across this. Division II has 9 scholarships. Division I has 11.7 scholarships. And that is not every recruiting class. Hopefully we all know this, but I'll explain. It's freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, fifth-year senior, grad student. That 11.7 is spread out through the whole team. The coach figures who's graduating or transferring and whatever money they were getting. So if $75,000 is leaving the program after spring of 2024, they know that that's what's available for the incoming recruits or transfers, high school kids or transfers coming in. Okay. All right, we keep moving. I'm going to kind of go through this quickly because some of the kids are, far away from this thing, but there's 2 awful times in recruiting. One is nobody wants you, no intention, nothing's happening, you're stressed out. And the second is equally difficult, is you got 4 schools that are interested and they put an April 15th deadline on your decision. And they say by April 15th, you either commit or the money's gone. So I always tell kids who are in that boat, either if you can't decide just, easily, the school that's better academically or better for your major, the school that is cheaper or gives you a better financial aid package, or where you and the coach have the best rapport and you feel like, wow, this coach gets me. You know what? I'm going to have a chance to play as a freshman. And if I make 2 errors in a game, he's not going to bench me for 15 games. The guy's in on my, he's going to give me an opportunity to develop there. What I highly advise is to make a visit, see this, sit in on classes, eat food in the cafeteria, check out the dorms, and talk to current players in the team or recent players in the team, or even parents of players on the team of, are they enjoying their experience? If they could do it all over again, would they go to XYZ school? Because some kids will tell you, oh, even if they're, maybe not getting enough playing time. Oh, this is great. I love the guys, love everything with strength and conditioning coach. The guys are really close. We hang out. These are my friends for life. And other kids go, man, I'd love to, this place is not what I thought. We're not happy here. Better to find out ahead of time than want to be in the group of, people that want to put in the portal because they're not happy. Quickly, I'm going to go through this. These are generally the biggest things I hear people say to me that I think are incorrect and that hurt them in the recruiting process. My son is at 2026. Coaches can't call yet, but they will on August 1st. So there's a lot of kids out there that are 2026s that go, well, of course, nothing's happening with the recruiting yet. The rules can't let them get recruited till August 1st. But they feel like on August 1st, watch out, everybody. The doors are going to just blow open with all the schools coming in to recruit them. Generally not, unless you're really, really good. So there's work to be done in the 2026s. Number 2, I'll get exposure at showcase camps this summer. You might. I've also worked a lot of showcase camps, and I've seen it from the inside. I know that sometimes the coaches that are there, it might say Middlebury. So you go, oh, I'm going to this camp because Middlebury's going to be there. I see their logo on the website. Meanwhile, it's a 21-year-old coach who has he knows he's not even coaching after this year. He's there because he can make $750 for the day, and he has no pull with Coach Leonard. So it looks good on the outside, but it doesn't always flesh out that way in reality, in addition to having worked these camps. And I think Head First is great, for example, but I've worked 4 sessions of Head First, which is 2 days each, which is 8 days in a row in the blazing heat for 12-hour days, and saw 1,000 kids in 8 days. I had by the end of it, my brain was fried. You asked me, what do you think of this kid? I had it's overwhelming in that experience. So you can get recruited there, but if you're going to go, well, I'm not doing anything but going to XYZ camp and that'll solve it all, be careful. I'm going to Georgia, etc., Hoover, Alabama. I'm going here, and the coaches will see me play there. Maybe not, right? My son played at Clubhouse. I'm not here promoting any one program over the other. My son played at Clubhouse. We went to Georgia. He played 10 games. There was only one college coach at his games. Guess who it was? Me, because I was watching my kid. Why? Because there's 50,000 teams. It's a big tournament. You don't know. No one's guaranteed to come watch your team. So who knows? You might get 10 coaches there. You might get no coaches there. So I'm just saying, to just simply rely on that doesn't always work out. My travel coach handles every recruiting for everyone. Boy, I hope they help. But I have about 60 kids I work with in recruiting. Every one of them has a travel coach that's helping. Well, maybe they're busy with their facility. Maybe they coach multiple teams. If you're getting that help, that's fantastic. You need that help. But I guess I would ask you, is every senior every year in that program going on to play in college? Are they churning out kid after kid after kid that's getting recruited? I think a lot of travel coaches, I know all the people in the area. They're all good people. I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them. But I don't know if they're getting, each kid at every program is getting the attention and service they need. Okay. I'm going to make a video and put it on Twitter. Awesome. If it's done the right way, as I talked about before. Most of the videos the kids make and put on Twitter, it's a waste. It's a waste of time. It's shot way behind the dugout. It's using a game changer. It's using one of those videos from a high cast it's impossible to tell. No one can make any evaluation that way. PBR and NCSA will get my info to coaches. And I have, ice to sell in Eskimo. PBR and NCSA don't do it. PBR is good in a couple of things. Their futures games are tremendous. It is a decent place to go for a coach to get some info on a kid, but it's most of the time it's old, right? So I'll go look at a kid and I'm like, hold on, I just saw this kid throw 86. His PBR thing shows him throwing 75 a year and a half ago. So they kind of get you into the system and make you keep going and updating your metrics. I'm not saying it's bad. NCSA is the worst thing that ever happened to recruiting, and they're the devil. I'm going to leave it at that. All right. So last part for me, I'm just going to give you a little bit of info about my background, and then I'm going to tell you how you could follow up with me should you want to, and then we'll, get to your questions. So this handsome guy here on the left in the Gettysburg shirt with the stirrups is me right there. Pretty studly, I must say. I kind of look a little bit like Roger Clemens. The only difference is I threw 20 miles an hour slower. Then I went on to coach 30 years in college. I coached Nova Southeastern, Fairfield U, Post, Holy Cross, and Sacred Heart. Along the way, bored out of my mind on buses before the internet and cell phones while kids were studying, I started writing. So I've written 3 recruiting books, been on WFAN and a lot of TV stations. And that led to high schools calling me, hey, I heard you on the radio, read your book. Can you come in and speak at the high school? So I've spoken at probably 500 high schools and every baseball coaches convention that there is in the country on recruiting. And now for the last 2 years, I run College Baseball Advisors, where I help kids get recruited. That's just going to leave it at that. That number on the screen is my cell phone. That email is my email address. And then one thing I'm happy to do, and I can put this link in the chat, is one thing I do is I do a personal, basically I call it a recruiting strategy Zoom. It's me, the kid, parents, and I ask 8 million questions, basically where are you now? What are you happy with your performance? What are you doing for lifting? What are you doing for hitting? What's your development, plan? What college level, are you looking at, and what's your plan to get there? And I kind of just get a full picture and give advice to people. And that's no cost, no obligation, helps a lot of people. If during that call somebody says, hey, I'd like you to help, I talk about it at that point, but there's no obligation, to meet with me one-on-one to just figure out this craziness, because I know what the process is like. So I don't know if that was 15 minutes or longer. It felt a little longer, and I apologize if it was. So let's do this. I don't have a genius way to organize who to ask questions in what order. But I'm assuming there are a variety of questions. So for the heck of it, I'm going to start with you, Aaron. Aaron, do you, from my talk, just in general, have any questions? Feel free to ask several.
I have a list.
People here. What's
I
that?
have a list of questions. I was wondering, and just in general, like what kind of money is available for baseball scholarships? I mean, forget about being like top notch, high, the best, but is there money available for baseball?
So here's I'll give you the gist of the way my daily life went for 16 years at Sacred Heart, which is typical of most, and some are a little different. But find a kid you like, get the transcript, submit the transcript to admissions. Admissions would write you back. Admissible, $14,000 of academic grant. Huge right off the bat. Wow, $14,000 a year that this kid could get for academics. Then, as a coaching staff, you're basically putting a kid into one of three categories when it comes to baseball money. One is, holy cow, this kid's legit. The only way we're going to get this kid is to make a significant offer. So that might be a pitcher, a legit shortstop, a catcher, center fielder, crazy good bat. So you'd say, you know what? He's getting 14,000 academic. Let's add in 25,000 baseball. And that gets him to the cost of tuition of the school. He still will have to pay room, board, and books. So if someone gets close to tuition, the coaches really, really like him. Okay. The second category is the kid that is worth some scholarship money, but not a high level scholarship. So that kid, for example, that maybe gets 14,000 academic dollars, you're going to add $5,000 worth of baseball money. Now, what does that mean to you as the parent and the kid? That's 19,000 in free dollars. To the NCAA, this could be confusing. If you get $1 of baseball money, any other money given by the institution counts as a baseball scholarship. So here's what I mean by that. If the school gives $14,000 in academic money and you give $1 in baseball money, 14,001 is viewed as an NCAA baseball scholarship. And then to that 11.7, it counts a certain percentage. So the NCAA views any institutional money, not loans, not grants, not like Pell Grants and federal money, but any money given by the university academically or athletically, the NCAA views it all as athletic money. Now, I know I'm confusing you, but I'm going to sum it up in a second. There is a rule in baseball, only sport out of all the NCAA sports. There's a rule in baseball. You have to if you give them any baseball money, it has to be a quarter of the cost of the school, 25% minimum. But not just in baseball money, it could be baseball money combined with the academic money. So that kid I said before, 14,000 academics, 5,000 baseball, that's 19,000. That's more than 25%. But the reason they made that rule, old school Mississippi State would recruit 8 shortstops, give them all $2,000 to come to the school. After the freshman year, they'd pick the best one, give him all the money, and get rid of the other guys. So now they made you make a more significant commitment to be able to be on that roster. And then there's a third category. The third category is recruited walk-on guys. These aren't Joe Schmo walk-ons, look for baseball tryouts and make the team. This is me saying, Aaron, listen, you got 14,000 in academic money. We really, really like you, but either we are out of scholarship money or we already gave money to our first catcher. You would be the second catcher. There's no money left for catchers. Or frankly, we just don't know yet if you're worth the money. We still guarantee you a roster spot, but there will be no baseball money. Now, if someone coming into a school that doesn't get baseball money, that wouldn't worry me as much anymore, because let's say, for example, just hypothetically, I'll use your son, Sam. So let's say Sam goes to a school and is getting no baseball money as a freshman. He all of a sudden becomes a starting second baseman, hits third in the order, and makes all conference as a freshman. What's the college coach going to do after the season? He's going to give him money, because if he doesn't give him money, what's Sam going to do? He's going to put it in the portal. Yes.
So they can do that? They can offer. Okay. Interesting.
Yes. Yes. So, but again, 11.7 scholarships, the rosters are 35. Every college roster has kids getting no money for baseball, some money for baseball, and a lot of money for baseball.
I imagine the percentage is highly on no money, generally.
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I would say most rosters are probably in thirds.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So let's hold off on your other questions, Aaron. I will ask, PJ, if that is your PJ, no questions. Okay, Josh.
No, I've been through all this, so this is very informative. Just to refresh the things here, but yeah.
All right, and the three I see: Angelia, Tanya, Robin, who have not put their video on, or please. This is meant to be question. Otherwise, it's going to be me and Aaron having a conversation, and everyone else listening.
Wayne, I got something just came to mind, actually.
Hold on, who is that? PJ, go ahead. I'll let you go first. Yep.
So these prospect camps, is it advantageous or are they at a disadvantage if they go as a freshman, right? Throwing 75, 77 consistently, hitting spots. Is it worth going to a pitching clinic for them, or should they hold off and wait until they've developed a little bit more?
Okay. My answer is go. Here's why. Not to every one of them, but I'd go to a couple for a few reasons. Number one, get it out of your system. Get used to going to these things and realize it's just playing baseball. You don't have to stress out about it. Number two, you can actually get some instruction from a coach that might be able to help you in some way. And then maybe the coach goes, man, I like this kid's personality. I like their delivery. I like their change. They're just not big enough. They don't throw hard enough yet. I'm going to track this kid. But I always look at it this way. If you go to, let's say your son goes as a freshman, or anyone's son goes as a freshman, and he just stinks. He just has a terrible day, walks everybody, throwing 68. And then he goes back to the same camp 2 years later, and he's 88 with a filthy slider. Do you think the coach is going to go, whoa, 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 I'd love to recruit you, but 2 years ago you weren't very good? That's the equivalent of like, and I hate to be goofy about this, but sometimes this works. It's like, you're 25 years old, you're looking to date somebody, and you see this gorgeous girl from height, like she is just beautiful, like the perfect woman for you. And you go, you know what? When you were 13, you weren't very pretty. I'm not dating you now. There's no way. Even though you're beautiful now, and when you were 13. So I don't think you could ever hurt yourself by getting seen too young. The coach just goes, nah, I'm not ready. And then looks at the other kids at camp, and when the time comes, would be interested in your kid. All right. So one of the ladies I interrupted, who was it?
It's Angelia Schmidt.
Okay.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This has been informative. I was wondering, with the NCAA changes for 2026 players, what that process looks like. I know you said it's not like August 1st, suddenly you're going to be getting all these offers if you haven't done all the work and outreach and referrals and all the great steps that you walked us through, but I guess it's sort of a new-ish process in the sense there are more rules in place. So what, for a better player that already has maybe some D1 coaches potentially interested, what does that look like? Does that look like then just really direct dialogue starts happening then, and maybe like an official visit? Or I guess it's hard to know what to expect because, teammates or friends that are ahead of us, it's been different, right? They've been talking throughout.
Yeah. So there's a couple things. First of all, one way to bypass all those rules are at camps. Now, it doesn't mean the coach can offer a younger kid at camp until August 1st date, but boy, they could certainly have communication and get to know each other. And then maybe August 1st, immediately out of the gate, somebody gets an offer. So that's a good way to bridge the gap. Number two is if the kid's really good, they're getting looked at. Like I have a 26 kid who is a Power 5 for sure, a left-handed hitting catcher, and coaches have gone to watch him because he's really, really good. And they work through me. They call and say, hey, we really like this kid. Let him know such and such. So, but for most 26s, what they should really be doing is getting really, really good, right? That's number one, making sure that truly, truly developing, and then getting some kind of feedback. Like, what does somebody actually think about their level so that they are headed in the right direction, or they can do something about their shortcomings that might turn coaches off when the time comes to get recruited. But when you're talking about somebody that the way you're making it sound is pretty darn good and already would probably have some Division I interest, I think if someone's that good, you kind of just keep plugging along and wait for the August 1st date and things will happen.
Right. So you send your schedules, have your travel coach and high school coach talk to them, and you're sort of trying to go to the camps you can make around your travel schedule in the summer, and then hopefully you get calls in August, I guess it sounds like. Is that a good recap?
Yeah, that's a good recap. I think, for me to give you specific advice, I'd either want to know more, which I don't think we should do in front of everyone, but I'd be happy to talk to you another time. Like, hey, I want to know what high school, what height, weight, what speed, what's the skill set. And then I could go, oh, yeah, this kid's getting called August 1. Or like, hey, from what I know, maybe it's not going to go the way that you expect. So everybody's in a different boat. So I need to know more information. But my earlier statement was that I think there's some kids who really have a long way to go to play at any level of college. And they're under the impression that the only reason no one's showing interest is because they're too young, when in fact, even when they're the right age, no one's going to show interest.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. All right, let's go. This is fun. Robin, Tanya, you guys have a question, or anyone else before we get back to the studious looking Mr. Castro? All right, Aaron, let's go back to you.
Yeah, but so what should a sophomore be doing right now?
So, and I was looking in the chat because someone, I think, David, you put a question in there, and I will respond to that in a minute. I just put that link to my schedule. But so what should a sophomore at 26? Number one, play your butt cheeks off in high school, right? So have a great season as good as possible. Number two, start to try to get a little bit of a list like, hey, these are 5 or 6 schools that, based on what people are telling me about my talent level, what my academic profile is, what I want out of my college experience, these are 5 or 6 schools that would fit me. And then either A, see if they have some camps on their campus. So I'm not saying find out where those coaches are in terms of big recruiting events, but like, let's just say Sam has Georgetown on the list. Well, Georgetown's going to run a camp in June. I'd go to that camp, right? And then secondly, whether it's high school coach, travel coach, I would use that person to say, hey, here's some information about this kid who's a 26. Here's some video. What do you think? Is this kind of kid that when the time comes, you're going to be interested in recruiting? It's certainly not too early to get feedback. One of the things that I would say for you specifically, but everybody, and I hate to say this because I know you're not like this, but you got to film some stuff. Like you said he hit 2 home runs in a scrimmage. We got any
That's
video?
right.
We got any video of that?
Yeah,
All right, good. So so you got to get
it's on
some
social media.
Good. So yeah, that's going to help move the needle too. So it's play and enjoy, and don't be stressed about recruiting as best as possible. Start putting a video together, start putting a little bit of a list together. And when you have a list, now you could go to the people in your world and say, hey, he's interested in this. Can you maybe bridge the gap? You know the coach. Can you send him the video? Can you tell that coach about my son and his skill set and see if he's interested? Like, it's not too early to start with a few schools at least to try to bridge the gap, because that's what I would be doing for a 26.
Okay, so I guess we got to brush up. So yeah, because most of the videos are like, it's basically a cheerleader, Lisa, my wife, filming and cheering at the same time, and the videos all over the place. So I guess maybe it makes sense to try to get good footage, better footage.
So that's okay in the second part of the video, but when that's the only video people have, it's sometimes very hard for a coach. Here's why. Because to be cynical, which many coaches are because they've been sold a bill of goods, if you will, sometimes a coach would look at that. Oh, the kid hit a home run. Okay, good. Boy, that pitcher probably stinks. That pitcher is probably the worst pitcher in the league. He's throwing 68 miles an hour. Well, my wife could hit a home run, So like, but that's why I like, if there's 15 BP swings to start the video, and the coach can go, whoa, this kid swings it, man. This is aggressive, good skill set. Oh, now in the game, he also can barrel a ball. That moves the needle. So it shouldn't just be game footage. It should not just be game footage. So I would make sure you have some practice footage of him to lead the way on that video.
Okay, good point.
Yep. All right. So, David, I'll look at your question. If Derek has contact with a coach, been to his camp this year, and the coach asked for the high school schedule to come see and play. Okay, so this is why all these questions are really good. So I'm going to answer this in 2 different ways. One is, a lot of kids that I worked with went to a lot of winter camps. Okay, and then my job, was to call the college coach after that camp and say, hey, such and such went to the camp. Give me some feedback. Did you like him? What do you think, etc. What a lot of the kids would say to me, or other kids I've just heard through word of mouth, well, the coach says he's interested. He's going to come watch me during the high school season. Maybe that's true. And I'm guilty of doing this when I was coaching in college. A lot of times I would say to a kid, hey, great having you at camp. I'd love to come watch you in high school. That was my way of being nice, of saying, yeah, I'm not interested. Just saying, because like, I wasn't going to be the kind of guy, and most humans aren't, hey, thanks for coming to camp. We didn't like you. This is going nowhere. Good luck. So a lot of times coaches just basically say, good. So if you're getting, if you got feedback now, so that's what I'm going to get to the second part of this answer. Any communication that's happened with any college coach in any way, you should be contacting the coach once a week. And here's exactly how you should do it. So for example, if you're interested in URI, just going to go with URI, I would do this. Coach, Just following up, we had 2 scrimmages this week. Just letting you know, I was hit third for both scrimmages. I went 3 for 7. I threw an inning on the mound. And I had a good week. Here's some video, or something like, Coach, I see you took 2 out of 3 from UMaine. Great weekend on your end. I was also doing this. Like, it's good to communicate and show that you see what's going on with them too. I generally tell my players that I'm working with to do that on Mondays. And the reason I like that on Mondays is every college coach in the country is off on Monday. They played Friday, they played Saturday, they played Sunday. Monday's an NCAA mandatory day off. They chill out, they work from home, they get messages, right? So that's when I would advise the kid, go on the college's website, see how their weekend went, send them a message, whether it's a text, a DM, an email. Hey, so you had a good, weekend, or hey, tough weekend. I'm sure you'll rebound next week when you play so-and-so. Here's what's happened this past week. My team won 3 out of 4 games. I had 4 doubles, and I'm starting on the mound next week if you're free. You just communicate. That's just constant communication. Yep. All right, let's keep going. I'm not going to try to wrangle questions out of you, but I'm really encouraging, because the reason I do is there's many things I couldn't cover in this piece, because there's too much, part of the process. But typically when someone asks me a question, I usually find that someone else wants the answer too, which is why these are productive. And for the kids that I work with, I have like office hours for the kids, I have office hours for the parents, and I have office hours for both. And they learn a lot from each other. So anyone else have any questions at all?
I just
Aaron,
wonder
you
how
got
your
more?
service, I wonder how your service works actually, Wayne. Like, let's say, I wanted to like get your, get your service. Like, how
So,
does that work?
so I
That
do.
are-
I'll just give you. First of all, let's start with this. Number one, I'm happy to meet with anyone at any time on this call. I only do it once, but I'm happy to meet with people for free on a Zoom one time and just give them advice, because I think the process is overwhelming. So I'm happy to do that one time. Hey, this is
Yeah.
what I think you should be doing given your situation, right? And then I also have people that they'll pay me for my time. Hey, here's my rate for an hour. We're gonna call. I'm gonna tell you what to do. And then I have people that hire me for the whole process. And just to kind of give you an idea, see if I don't know if this will give you an exact view of what it's like, but here's how I do it. So all my students, we use an app called Coach Now. So here's all the kids, and I just track the kids that are committed or not committed or whatever. And while I can call them on the phone and do a Zoom and do text and whatnot, most of our recruiting communication happens through this Coach Now app, right? So I take this kid, and I've done all the research on him, got his transcript, got his video, talked to his coaches, and then I come up with, together we come up with his list of school. We make basically like a profile, so I have all his information, etc. And then we come up with a list of schools, and we just systematically go through. And every week I reach out to 2 or 3 schools for the kid and just give feedback.
Is that based on like an hourly fee or?
No, they hire me for. So I have kids that hire me in 8th grade, 9th grade, all different times, and I charge the same flat fee that they can pay over a year, 2 years, 3 years. I don't care. The end amount comes out to the same, and I let people pay on whatever monthly or installment they want, whatever's works for them as a family, you know. So that, you and I are buds, we could talk about that, but anyone else that is interested, usually I just start, and I also start off with a Zoom call, and I don't even like to tell you my costs and all those things for a couple of reasons. 2 things stop me from working with people. I don't take on everyone for a couple of reasons, but one is you got to be good enough, right? I've had people that want me to help them, and there's nowhere to help until they get better. They're not, I'm not able to help them. That happens less than this, which happens 1 out of every 4 or 5 times. I'll have a kid and I'll evaluate them, and I think they're a really good player. and I think they're a perfect candidate to play at a good Division III school. And their list has Indiana and Michigan and Wisconsin and Florida State, and I go, this is not going to work because
Yeah.
you'll be unhappy with what end result that I deliver. And this is not something I talked about in my little presentation. And I'm not saying this to threaten anyone, but I think one of the biggest misconceptions going right now for most young kids is they don't realize how good Division III college baseball is. Like, for example, Salve Regina. Okay, if you could go look at their recent year, Salve Regina is a Division III school that many kids go, well, yeah, that's my fallback plan. Like that, I could play that now. Salve Regina has 6 kids throwing between 92 and 95. They're a Division III school, right? Endicott would beat Quinnipiac probably. Like Endicott is a power, and I love Quinnipiac, and John Delaney and I, the head coach together. But Endicott's a power program. Eastern Connecticut's really good. So like, and that's what when I'm saying to somebody that I think they're a Division III player, they kind of take it as a slight, and I don't view it that way. I think it's incredibly competitive to play Division III baseball. It really is. Most kids, because again, back to the beginning of my talk, what percent of high school kids play in college? 7.5%. That's facts. That means 92.5% of kids will not play college baseball. It's incredibly competitive. So that's why, to me, it has to be the right fit,
Yep.
All right, I'm going to stop my share so I could see everybody on the screen at once. Anyone else? Aaron, any last questions? Anyone else that's on have any additional questions?
I don't know. I don't. I think it was very informative. I appreciate it, Wayne.
Good. All right. I'm glad. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Feel free, email, cell, whatever, contact me, go to my calendar. And if I can help you, let me know.
All right.
All right, everyone.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night. Good night.